We welcome in Bryan Munson of Husker Online. Bryan, breaking news. The Bills have signed Ben DiNucci. Is the Josh Allen era over in Buffalo?
No, but the Mitch Trubisky era might be a little bit on might be a little bit in trouble. I mean, he missed a wide open receiver in the end zone in the second quarter. Josh only got three drives. I think when he tucked it and ran it that last time, it was like, okay, like you're getting a little bit too competitive there, brother. You can go ahead and take a seat now for the rest of the game. But I didn't think Trubisky looked like he had it. Not sure how much was weighing on him, maybe in the back of his mind that he was playing against, the team that drafted him, like sometimes those guys want to kind of go out there and get them to kind of think about things. I mean, I don't know what they'd be thinking about. They've got their number one pick, playing for them too. So, I think Trubisky's time in Buffalo could be limited right now.
Hey, B. Munson, what's going on, my friend? You all right?
What's up, buddy?
Good. You're going to get Streaky to throw a couple at you. One's probably a shorter answer, and the other will be a little bit longer, and you take your pick as how you decide you're going to answer these. But for me, what's going on up in Pittsburgh has been very interesting. Obviously, the injury with Russell Wilson, and then you have Justin Fields that steps in, having a great camp. And then what's the importance of these preseason type of games? Because he absolutely did not look bad. He looked like he fell back into some of his old habits, holding the ball a little bit too long, taking sacks. Just didn't look as good and as crisp as what I saw in some of his practice videos of making throws and looking good. What's your thought on that and how that may pan out in going forward?
Well, you definitely feel like Fields is the long-term, kind of answer there in Pittsburgh. At least maybe the way that they would want it to play out is you give Russell his year or two, you give, a very similar type of player, in Fields to kind of go back and learn some good things. Maybe it's about, about the things that go into, what makes him into being a professional, not just on the field, but away from it, the film, the study, the working hard, the things he does to take care of his body, etc. There's all sorts of things, of course, that go into that. And maybe those are some of the knocks that I don't know personally about Fields, but it could be definitely something that he would want to, potentially pick up from him. I think Fields has got, one of those things, obviously, where you're very repetitive in your practices and you're looking for certain things to kind of develop in front of you. It's almost like it's predictive, right? It's almost to like where, that they should be looking here and throwing this and, we're going to give you one or two or three different looks here and you're going to read this, you're going to read that guy, you're going to read this thing. And when you take that away, that control, and you put him into a game environment, I think that's where Fields, kind of loses some confidence, maybe loses some concentration, I guess is maybe the best way of kind of saying it. But he's a tremendous athlete, and he's maybe trying to be a little bit too much of the guy that maybe some people hope that he can be, to kind of hang out there in that pocket, because he's dangerous. He's Jalen Hurts-esque, when it comes to tucking it and running it. He's one of the most, dangerous players in the NFL. When he decides he's going to tuck it and run it, he can go out there and make some big gainers. And I think that would take those plays that you mentioned, like, holding it for too long, taking those sacks, coverage sacks, pressure gets home, etc. Could take some of that stuff away if he would just go ahead and flash it a little bit. But maybe they're a little bit, Nebraska right now too, with not wanting to kind of, do too much with that quarterback because they've already got one guy that's banged up.
There it is. Here's the second part of the question, because we know with the new rule changes now, the staff has been able to be extended beyond the 10 assistant staff that Nebraska has been consistently having. There was an addition that was added, and that person's name was Jamar Mosey, who is Lee Summit North's winningest coach in history. But he had a son, and his son's name is Isaiah Mosey. And the young man has decommitted and now flipped to Nebraska. What is that say about Nebraska outside of the fact, is it just great coaching strategy, or is it that Nebraska has something that they have to offer and the messaging is starting to get through for what they've been able to land? Talk to me.
Well, I tell you what, couple of really good things there. I mean, number one, I think that Mosey has a connection, with Raiola, with TJ Lateef for that matter, going back to his official visit in April. In June, and I know that those guys are definitely connected. I think that to get Jamar Mosey, to come back from UCF is really a coup by Coach Rule, and you kind of touched on it because this is a guy that he understands the Midwest. He played for Oklahoma. I mean, this is a guy that's got all sorts of ties all the way back into the high school, from his playing days in high school to playing football in Norman, to having several different jobs, varying jobs in the Kansas City area, which obviously is a market Nebraska is very desperate to get a stronghold or a foothold in at all.
Right.
They need a guy like Mosey to go ahead and walk through the door of the school and then just have people sit up and go, coach, like this. And just, it's one of those things where you just it's a comfortability where you put a guy like that into your high school. And this guy I know will take care of you because I know what he did with his high school players, all the Williams Nwernies and the other players that he's produced over the years. I mean, he has really developed some talent out of his high school. So high school program. So, yes, absolutely. I think this is huge because I think him coming back to Nebraska shows how serious he thinks Matt Rule is about turning things around. And I think that Isaiah, to know that he felt the family vibe at Nebraska even before Dad joined the team up there, that he knew the culture had changed. And now that Dad was there, I feel like it was just the icing on the cake. And really, that's why you could almost, like I was trying to hint around it, like, this thing's going to happen. It's going to happen very, very quickly. So it's a great fit for he and his dad.
Is there a player that you've seen in Nebraska history there, or maybe even a pro comp that Isaiah Mosey reminds you of?
It's a good one. Nothing off the top of my head. Here's what I like about him. Let me just go ahead and just go there, and maybe some folks will probably throw some things out to you over the chat line and stuff like that, or maybe tweet at us a little bit. I love the fact that he is not just your line him up in one spot kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that Nebraska is going to find ways to line up outside, inside. They're going to put him in motion. They're going to make defenses account for him all over the football field. He's the kind of guy right there that you put him in motion because of the danger and the mismatches that he creates, as he is motioning across that line of scrimmage. That is a very dangerous individual, to where he can catch things in tight spaces, make plays to get out of it, make big gainers, and then he can also, take the top off of the defense. He can stretch the football field. He's very consistent. Caught for over 1,000 yards last year. Actually, a really good defender too. Over a little bit underrated in that area too. I really like his film playing defense as well. But I really feel like that's kind of a complete guy that you can put him in the room and he can do a little bit of everything for you. And I think that obviously really helps out a guy like McGuire, that, you've got guys that are really more traditional X, really guys that are more traditional Z, more guys that are traditional slot guys. You can just go ahead, and I think there's a big similarity between all three of the guys that are in the class currently with Bryson Hayes and Jackson Carpenter. They're very similar. They're built similarly that way. They're all 10.5, 10.6, 10.7 guys, really quick, 21 mile an hour guys that you could put on the treadmill, and just let them kind of do things and get some mismatches. They all have different kind of physical traits and explosiveness. It's a nice little group of wide receivers they've got right now.
More Percy Harvin or more Deebo Samuel?
Ooh, I'd say Percy Harvin. That's a good one. I tell you what, if you want a Debo comparison, go look up Michael Terry III. Michael Terry III, to me, that's a young Debo Samuel. I hate to keep saying that, because Debo, to me, he's one of the funnest players in the NFL to watch.
Yeah.
Period. I am not a 49er fan by any stretch of the imagination, but that dude right there, I will tune in, watch him any day. That guy's incredible.
You weren't wrong about our text line and comment section throwing out some names. One person said Wan'Dale Robinson. One person said Tyjon Lindsey. Either of those stand out?
Oh, I like the Lindsey one. So I was going to go Robinson. And maybe it just goes back to the misuse potentially under the Frost era, of him putting him at running back. But really, if you went back to the Wildcat days when he went to Kentucky, and maybe what he's doing more with the New York Giants, I think that's really probably a pretty good fit too. I'm just hesitant to call him that, obviously, because of what he was at Nebraska, which was the best player on the offensive side of the football that they tried to get the ball, in his hands every single snap. And unfortunately, it meant playing running back, which wasn't a great fit. And didn't mean to have, leave a lot of tread on the tires potentially. So I like both of those guys. I just more Wan'Dale after he left Lincoln.
Makes sense. You've been writing a little bit about the junior days that Nebraska's had, some 2026 guys. One of them I appreciated your write-up on was Hudson Parliament, offensive lineman from Valley, South Dakota. What did people need to know about Hudson Parliament?
Really a talented dude. I think he's got Nebraska, very high on his list, if not right at the top. Took a visit last year to the Purdue game, has been back to Nebraska twice since, is looking at another visit, very early in the fall season. These are the kind of guys right here, and this is how you're going to kind of see it kind of come together, right? When you're bringing that 2026 guy back, and it's Colorado, it's, some other game that's very, very early on the calendar, and it's their fourth visit to Nebraska, and Nebraska has a couple visits on the next, closest school. That's how you're going to start to see that separation. And basically, the development of the relationship. You're going to get those guys back for an early junior day again in January, February. Then you'll have the April opening things up, spring practice. Let's get you scheduled now for an official visit, whether that's spring game or the last visit in the month of June. But that's how you're going to see this thing kind of come together. That's the pattern. And I think that's really important to kind of start watching now, because everybody, I keep harping on it, and it's just, I think people are starting to see it a little bit, but 2026 guys are going to be all the rage, as things start out, those first three games, the home game, they're going to fill the sidelines with those 2026 guys. They have to, because this is where the relationships are really starting. And these are the only opportunities that these guys will have to basically see game days, because they will be committing in that June, July timeframe in 2025. So you got to go ahead and get these guys on campus now. And this is really, really valuable time.
Let's enter the 2025 guy whose name has been brought up on this program. You've written plenty about him. Christian Jones says he's going to take his commitment into the fall, says he plans to commit probably 3 games into the season. Any update for where the Huskers sit with the in-state linebacker product?
I reported, in Tunnel Talk, or actually earlier last week, that, it was really Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Miami was making a bit of a push. I think that Nebraska still is in a solid position. I kind of give Oklahoma an advantage here, I think. I think that however, Nebraska just missed out on Will Hawthorne. I'm sure Nebraska is really making sure that, that Christian Jones, ends up being a Husker. I'm sure the pressure and the attention has been dialed up since then. Not that it probably wasn't before, but I'm sure that he feels, he's feeling it right now. But I think that, that he's always kind of said mid-September, that's going to be kind of it. You watch out maybe for something. Here's a little bit of a curveball, because we're only talking about 3 teams right now. Watch to see if he takes an official visit to Wisconsin. That may be the only thing that could be like a curveball kind of situation right now. But I feel like they'll use slightly in front. I think Nebraska is right there. but Wisconsin would have an opportunity, I think, to get him up to Madison for an official visit if they wanted it in early September.
How important is Christian Jones for Nebraska, having lost even a guy like Dawson Merritt to Alabama?
He's huge. I mean, he's a versatile guy. I think he's, when you take a look at him though, a little bit, at the next level, he probably projects more to play. He's going to play some inside. He'll still get some outside action. He can be a pin your ears back, kind of guy and get after him. He's not going to be like, that prototypical 6'4", 6'5" guy with really, really long arms, but he's an incredible athlete. He has explosiveness, and he has all the speed and the tools off the side, that he's on the field. It's just that he's not going to tape out like the next guy. He's not going to have those hands, that arm length, that wingspan, etc. But I think that he's a gamer, and there are those types. It's just, to get into that green room, Thursday night, wherever they're having the NFL draft, you have to have both. But you can still be a successful guy and not have the ideal dimensions, of a top flight NFL guy or what they're looking for, on paper, but you can still be incredibly successful at the collegiate level without having all of those, paper tiger type of dimensions.
That's Bryan Munson of Husker Online. He's our guest on our VIP line, brought to you by Aloe Fiber. Check out Bryan's work at Husker Online. Definitely worth a subscription as we get closer to the start of football season officially, but the off season, obviously, Bryan's been in the lab writing plenty as well. Follow him on Twitter. Make sure that's where you get a lot of the insight as well. Bryan, I will pour one out to the end, or the probable end of the Mitchell Trubisky era, and raise that same glass up for Ben DiNucci with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And in the lab, there's a big thing coming up on 3 and Out, so be tuned in for that Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning. Husker Online, part of the On3 network. Bryan, as always, appreciate it. Have a good one, man.
See you guys.